Thanks, everybody. It's the most I've ever had this presentation. I'm very excited. Thank you for showing up. Again, yeah, this is NFPA 70E and 70E standard, new standard for 2024. This is not the electrical maintenance that was previously scheduled for this. So if that's what you're looking for, sorry to disappoint you, but this is still good for you to get educated on and help keep you guys safe. Again, my name is Aaron Olson. I'm with Transworld Electric. I've been here since 2019. We specialize in electrical asset management and safety and reliability. So this is a little bit about our company. I won't dwell too much on that. Let's talk about this a little bit more at the end, perhaps, but you guys are here to learn about the NFPA 70E standard. So this is a refresher. So hopefully, how many people here have heard of NFPA 70E before this presentation? Does anyone have an idea of what about? Willing to not elaborate, but give me an idea of what 70E covers. What's the point of it? Electrical safety. How to work safely around electricity. So we're going to talk about several things: who's qualified, PPE and codes, arc flash labels, and energized work. Then we're going to discuss NFPA 70B, the updated standard on that, what happened to that in 2023 that has changed things for you guys for the better, I would say. Electrical preventive and predictive maintenance that is required, practices and tools, and then proactive maintenance benefits. So this is pretty much, it's not even a joke really, but this is an observation by George Carlin. Probably the only funny part of my presentation, if it's even that funny. Electricity is just organized lightning. That is literally true. Nobody wants to get struck by lightning. Nobody wants to get hit by electricity. But he was convenient, but he was very accurate in that. So codes and standards for reliable and safe electrical distribution. We're going to be concentrating on these two, 70E and 70B. But all of the things that you see that I'm going to talk about today are going to be based and initiated with that National Electric Code. The code is updated frequently. I don't know how often that one's updated. These two are updated every 3 years. But the code is written in blood, okay? So anytime that there's an update to the code, there's a reason they're updating that code. It might make life a little bit more difficult for some of you, but it's all with the intention of making sure that you guys stay safe and that your equipment is installed properly and it's safe to be around. IEEE is really the design for all of the equipment that is going to go in your facilities. That's a standard that is utilized by engineers while they're designing that, and then that stuff should be adhered to, making sure that you guys are maintaining your equipment up to the standards that are created by the IEEE. And then the manufacturers utilize that information to determine the standard and processes that you are supposed to do to maintain the electrical equipment in your facility. How many people here work, so this is the operators conference, right? So how many people here have numerous pump stations across their districts? Water treatment plants, full plants that we're working on. Yes, so all of that stuff runs on electricity, I'm guessing. I don't think we have any hamsters or dogs running on wheels to keep that stuff going. So if your electricity is not working right, your plants aren't working right. So the next thing we're going to cover is qualified persons. Who is a qualified person? When we're talking about NFPA 70E and 70B, making sure you are a qualified person working on that equipment is the utmost importance. How many people here manage other people? Any managers in here? If you ask somebody that works for you to go work on equipment, you are deeming them qualified. You personally are deeming them qualified. If you're being asked that from up top to ask people to do that, you want to make sure that those individuals are qualified to work on that. So what does qualified mean? Qualified means distinguish live parts from other parts of equipment. Determine the nominal voltage of live parts. Know the minimum approach distances to live parts. And you proceed safety training to identify the hazards and reduce the associated risk. There's a lot there. Each piece of equipment is different. How many people have lockout takeout programs at their facilities? Yes, lots of people have that. Everybody knows that these days. How many people know where the one-line drawings to your equipment is to ensure that you're locking everything out properly? I have one person raise their hand. That's good. Because if you don't have a one-line program, a one-line diagram, you don't technically have a lockout takeout program. You need to know what is connected to what. That's part of being qualified, knowing that type of stuff, okay? You want to minimize your exposure. So, if you're asking yourself, I'm going to be working on this equipment, am I a qualified person? Are the people that I'm asking to work on that equipment qualified individuals? Who's unqualified to work on energized electrical circuits? An unqualified person is anyone in a work area containing electrical hazards with little to no training avoiding these hazards. So there's a little bit in the middle there. It should be a black and white thing. But a lot of situations where people think that they might be qualified or have enough training and they don't. Ignorance is bliss in the situation until you get hurt. There have been a couple instances in the state of South Carolina already in the last year where people have lost their life because they were probably not properly qualified to be working on electrical equipment. And so we want to avoid those situations where people get hurt or worse, which has occurred already. Unfortunately, with one of our brothers in the water world too, up in the upstate there. So PPE, protective clothing for arc flash. Most serious arc burn injuries usually result when untreated clothing is ignited during an arc incident. So we want to wear arc-rated clothing, layers of that. We don't want to wear synthetic blends, and we don't want to wear contaminated clothing. What is contaminated being oil, grease, anything like that that might be flammable with that. Over there you see the 40 cal suits. We've actually got one at our booth over there too. We don't sell those, but if you guys need something like that, we can help you guys acquire those. 40 cal suit, they've gotten a lot better. They've gotten lighter and more easy, more mobile to walk around in, but they're that is the last line of defense that you have. So the important thing to talk about here too is that PPE is your last line of defense for arc flash situations. If you have to wear one of those, it's pretty high end. Hopefully you've had a arc flash study, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, done so you can minimize the amount of PPE that you need to wear for being properly rated. So when you see these 40 cal suit, let's say you're wearing that and there's an arc flash that's 35 calories. We'll get into what that means later. Does anybody know what NFPA 70E sees as an acceptable injury while wearing PPE? I'm talking level burn. What level burn is acceptable to them? 2. Second-degree burns are acceptable. Your PPE is intended to prevent you from getting third-degree burns. How many people here have had a second-degree burn? I had one sunburn when I was a kid. It sucks. It sucks. You blister up, you scab, it's not fun. But NFPA 70E says that's acceptable. So this PPE is intended to prevent second-degree burns. If you have inadequate PPE and you get that third-degree burn from that, even though you thought it was there, that's a lot worse situation. It's obviously life-threatening. So PPE is intended to prevent that from happening. Back in 2015, they got rid of Category 0. How many people have labels like this in their facility? Have you seen those before? Yeah, so if you, these are supposed to be updated once every 5 years. I'll probably cover that here in a little bit, but they updated these because people would see level 0 on some of these stickers. They kind of got rid of those, and they would think that they didn't have to wear anything. So they didn't have to wear any level PPE. So they got rid of that. So people would then have to just read what the actual caloric incident energy is. So arc flash PPE is always required though, especially gloves if you're in there. And if you're looking at this label and you don't know what this stuff means, when you're working on a piece of equipment, probably means that you're not qualified and you need to ask for some help or get somebody in there that is qualified to be working on that. So those labels are important. If you can't read the label or understand what the label is saying, go ahead and deem yourself as an unqualified person so you're not putting yourself in harm's way. Jeff, did you want to cover the part of this one?
Go ahead. Go ahead. You go.
You go. Okay. So, hierarchy of risk control. The PPE is the last one. I just covered that, but that's one that most people think about when they're thinking about the risk associated and minimizing risk for working on electrical equipment. There's actually other things that come before that. So, elimination. Elimination means doing things that will just eliminate the risk completely. Anybody give me an example of elimination on an electrical safety situation?
Power down.
Power down, lockout, tagout situation, right? We call that putting in an electrically safe working condition, right? You need to verify, you need to use your one lines, find out what you need to turn off. Everything downstream from that's going to be turned off, and then you want to use some, you want to make sure, you want to put some tools on that to make sure that everything is de-energized before you work on it. That's an excellent example of elimination. Substitution. We have an idea of what substitution difference is. What was the other one? What did you say?
Contracted out.
Contracted out? That is a substitution. That's absolutely right? So finding another way to do it, right? There's another possible way of doing it. Engineered controls. Those are situations where you can change the trip hazard on that, or you have relays, like those things all turn the power off if something goes bad. So those are engineered controls. Awareness. Awareness is training. So you guys are getting a little bit of that right now. NFPA 70E train. This isn't a 70E training class. This is just to introduce you to the situation. But awareness is, be aware when you're in danger. Be aware when you maybe aren't qualified to be doing something and need to ask for help. Administrative. Anybody have any idea what an administrative situation is that can help? So that is administrative, and those are rules. So that the program is good. Documentation of what?
Equipment maintenance.
Good. Okay. So documentation of equipment maintenance. Yes, and we're going to get more into that as well. How many people here use a energized work permit ever? Anybody ever hear one of those? What's on that energized work permit, sir?
Shutdown procedure.
Was that again?
Shutdown procedure.
Shutdown procedure. What else? Actually, I think I might cover that here in a second. So there's a lot of signatures on that energized work permit. So your safety coordinator, the plant manager, the maintenance manager very often have to sign off on that because they need to say, hey, if we're going to do this live, why are we doing this live? Is it absolutely necessary? And if you think it is that necessary, you're going to put your name and date it right here saying that that's necessary. That's to protect you guys that are working on this equipment, okay? That doesn't necessarily protect you, but if something happens, you've got all these people who have written on that piece of paper that says, we deem this necessary. And then there you go, the last one is PPE. That clothing, that helmet, that B suit, the 40 cal suit, that is your last line of defense if something happens. Did I cover all that right, Jeff? That's usually your slide. Electrical set, so here's your energized work permit. I thought that was the next one. He's right. So the procedure on this, what you need to do to shut everything out, detailed job description produced, the description of safe work practices to be employed. This is the information from the ARC flash label, which you guys should all have. If you don't have those, you probably should just be shutting that down because you don't necessarily know the level of incident energy that's going to occur if an arc flash happens. Does everybody know what an arc flash is? We're familiar with what that is. I kind of took out the video there because I feel like most people have all seen that, but maybe I should put that back in. But yes, so that's when something goes phase to phase or anything gets in there and there's a huge amount of electricity that blows out the whole situation while it's open. Lots of energy comes out. It can burn hotter than the sun, causing great injury from that. This is the information that comes from that label to know the level of PPE that you need to wear. This is a 13.8 kV, that's medium voltage, that's pretty high. Limited approach boundary is 5 feet, so you need to be properly PPE inside that 5 feet. Restricted boundary is a 2 feet 2 inches, that arm's length there. That tells you the level of gloves you need to be wearing, the incident energy that's there if there is a situation. And the boundary, this is people that aren't wearing any protection. That's how far away they need to be in the event of an arc flash, so they don't get any 17 feet 2 inches. I mean, it's medium voltage, so that's a pretty significant one. So that's a pretty big area right there. Sometimes there's not enough area to even have that much space there. And then down here, as I mentioned, who's the person doing the work on it? They're and this is saying they are an electrically qualified person. So if you are the person that's doing the work on that, you don't think you're electrically qualified to do that, you don't need to put your name on that. That is something that you're saying, I feel like I am qualified to do that. More than one person, the manufacturing manager, the safety manager, and general manager. This is to be filled out, should be filled out by your company anytime you're doing energized work. That's to protect you guys for that, okay? Who's responsible, liable, what is covered, the training qualifications for completing this form. So let's go over that. All right, so NFPA 70E and 70B is what we talked about. They cover how to work safely around electrical equipment. So there's 6 points of compliance that go along with that now. Maintain an updated NFPA 70B electrical safety program. How many people have an electrical safety program at their facility? Have a concept of one? Something like that, probably, yeah. There's actually 2 that you need to have. There's one for the people that are working in your facilities to adhere to, and policies and procedures to go about if something happens, if there's an outage, you know, make sure you're doing stuff safely. And then there's also one that you need to have for any vendors that are coming into your facility to be working on your equipment. If you invite somebody into your facility and tell them to go work on the electrical equipment, or allow them to work on the electrical equipment, you are automatically deeming them qualified. Is anybody doing any verification of the skill set that the individuals are coming in? You are. What do you do?
I asked for certification, asked to see their past training records, so on and so forth, anything that they can provide.
Excellent,
And then do
yeah.
a competency test on top of that.
Good. That's great. And so you're ahead of the game on a lot of folks. So a lot of us, you know, and I've been guilty of it too when I invite people to my house to do I don't ask for their certification. I call an electrician to do stuff. I work for an electrical contractor. But I live in Columbia. My company's based out of Charleston. So, you know, are you making sure that those people are qualified? Train qualified employees in 70E compliance. There's two of these also. The first one is theoretical training that should happen once every 3 years. That is the actual classroom safety aspect of that. And then there is the competency aspect, being able to show how to work a lockout takeout program and put a piece of equipment in an electrically safe working condition. That should be done yearly for anybody that is going to be working on electrical equipment for you guys. Generate, update, and post a single line diagram, as I alluded to earlier. That should be readily accessible by anybody that's going to be working on electrical equipment for you guys. If you don't know what feeds it, how do you know what to how to shut it down? And if you don't know what it feeds downstream to when you shut it off, how far do you know down the line that things are energized or de-energized? This needs to be something that is posted and easily accessible. There are some softwares out there that also do redundancies for that makes it easy to keep that in one line at your fingertips. But these you should have prints in the maintenance area for the one lines. And those should be updated anytime that there's a major change created, or once every 5 years when you update your arc flash study. Perform an incident energy analysis and apply approved arc flash labels. That is the arc flash study that we talk about a lot these days. That should be updated once every 5 years, or again, once any time there is a major change to your plant or facility that you guys are working in. And you need to make sure that those labels are easily accessible and easy to read. Provide employees with personal protective equipment, that's the PPE. And then perform electrical, predictive, and preventative maintenance as per NFPA 70E. So 70B, here's where the big update occurred. In January of 2023, that 70B went from a strongly suggested to a required. So as we used to say, people will do arc flash training and say, okay, 70B is the regulations and the type of maintenance that you're supposed to be doing on equipment all the time. Is this required? Can OSHA be requiring this? And do they say that explicitly? And our answer was always yes. But now it's yes, because they have changed the standard to say that it's an enforceable standard enforced by OSHA. And that should start from day one. I know there's a lot of new plants coming online in the state. I've talked to several folks about that over the last couple of years. And when that plant gets done, you should already have plans to start a maintenance program to ensure that the electrical safety and reliability is there for your equipment. All right, so why did NFPA decide to make 70B a requirement rather than just recommendation? All right, so the purpose of this standard is to provide for the practical safeguarding of persons, property, and processes from the risks associated with failure, breakdown, or malfunction, and a means to establish a condition of maintenance for electrical equipment and systems for safety and reliability. That's a lot of words there. How many people here have experienced an unplanned electrical shutdown in their facility? Just a couple people. Most people are just up and running. It's all running all the time. You guys are due. You guys are due for one if you haven't had one yet. People who have experienced an unplanned outage, do bad things happen sometimes? What were the bad things that happened when you had the outage? Couldn't pump any water. If you have a big arc flash, sometimes it destroys equipment, or there's a fire that gets started as well, so you might damage other things. So the purpose of 70B is to make sure that your equipment works properly, is dependable, prevents fires, prevents risks to individuals, keeps everybody safe, and keeps the water moving. All right, so 70 chapter safety-related maintenance requirements. So these are literally right from the standard. I want to go over these with you guys. So you understand what the standard is setting and what you guys are responsible for. Improper or inadequate maintenance can result in increased opening time of overcurrent protective device, thus increasing incident energy. What's an overcurrent device? Okay, so surge protector is one form of that. What's the more common one than a surge protector?
Fuse.
Fuse, yep, perfect. One other one maybe?
Breaker.
Breakers, right? All right, so what is, do we have one take a stab at what that means? Have you heard of trip time? All right, so there's trip time that's gonna, you're gonna have an overcurrent for a little while, and then that's gonna trip. The length of time that that breaker or that fuse takes to trip or blow or whatever is determines the amount of energy that gets released, okay? 5.4 calories per centimeter squared. If you have bare skin exposed to heat, does anybody know the number of calories it takes to get a 3rd-degree burn? That's a tough question, I know. I was just seeing that. 1.7. 1.7 calories will give you a 3rd-degree burn, okay? So if you're not covered, that's where the PPE comes in, right? Whatever you see that's not covered, you're okay losing that piece of skin, okay?
At what length of time?
I think in a second. I think it's 1 second. It's a good question. Yes. And that at the end. That's the exposure area. So the distance matters also, but I think it's 1 second. So if an overcurrent device, when we do these studies, there's engineers that have determined how much energy is released when a breaker takes 5 cycles to close, 10 cycles to close, whatever the manufacturer says it's going to take to trip and close, right, or open up, I shouldn't say close, to open. I'm not an electrician, so I might not words up sometimes. Whatever it takes to open up and cut that off, if your equipment isn't properly maintained and it's rusted or whatever, you haven't exercised the breakers or any of the maintenance on it, if it takes even just 2 or 3 cycles longer to open up, this number goes up exponentially pretty darn quick. And so the amount of PPE that you're wearing, according to the label, might be adequate. You think it's good, but if your equipment isn't properly maintained, it can suddenly be inadequate, and you can now find yourself with a 3rd-degree burn because your equipment took longer to open up than it should. So that's why you want to do maintenance. That's the big reason, because overcurrent protective devices, you want to make sure they're operating properly. If your fuses are mixed, we see that all the time when we go through do testing and code safety inspections. We see different fuses in a disconnect. They should match, so you know that they're all going to trip at the same time. Different fuses are created different ways with different load times, and if they're not all the same, you're putting yourself at risk. So that's one of the codes that we look for as well. And it refers back to NFPA 70E, required practice for electrical equipment maintenance. Any questions on that part? If you have any questions at any point, please raise your hand. I'm not scared to stop and chat. I'll answer the best I can. All right, so what are some preventive maintenance procedures? And I'm not talking electrical. What other PMs are you guys doing right now within your plants? Any maintenance, any preventive maintenance that you guys are doing?
Housekeeping.
Lubrication. Okay, great. What else?
Housekeeping.
Housekeeping. That's good. Lawn service, anything like that? Do any of those? No? That's good. I'll leave you that. Piping pressure vessels, rotating equipment. How many of you got like motor alignment programs going? You guys do that? You align your motors? That's preventive maintenance right there, right? Exit sign line maintenance, HVAC boiler maintenance, office equipment, UPS equipment, generator maintenance. So these are all things that people are doing. I don't know if you guys are or not, maybe you're not, but a lot of folks that we talk to are doing all these things. Electrical should just be part of that. And we're going to start talking about the frequency and how often you guys should be doing that type of stuff. All right, so electrical systems drive all our other systems. Should it fail, most other maintenance is useless. So as I mentioned with this gentleman here, it powers everything. When the electricity stops, all the operations at your facility simply stop as well. So electrical maintenance is a very important part. And if you're not doing that and something goes wrong, all the other stuff you've done is pointless. All right, so what happens if electrical system fails? Process losses, as we mentioned, productivity, revenue, safety. A lot of you guys aren't profit generation venues or anything like that, but we have a service to provide. And so if your customers aren't getting that service, people are going to recognize that. So process losses are important to eliminate those. Pump failures, sewage spills, deterioration of power quality, reduced life of motors and transformers, server problems. We come across grounding issues a lot when we do our PM visits, and that kind of stuff can really have an effect on PLCs and computers and other different things in your facilities. So catching those grounding issues is very important. There's a lot of code, double lugging on different conductors and stuff like that that can also affect you guys. So if you're having little nuisance issues, nuisance tripping, other issues, those are typically symptoms of a grounding issue or some other issues that are easily fixed and easily found with an inspection. Loss of emergency notification systems and expensive emergency repairs. Run to failure is a big thing here in South Carolina. I come across that a lot. It is not great. One, sometimes you might not have something to replace it with, and you're down even longer, and it's expensive. It's very expensive and inefficient, so a lot of the issues that you find on electrical components are easily fixed, and it's much better to do it during a planned shutdown than really spend a ton of money in doing it during an emergency unplanned shutdown. All right, so this is from FM Global. That is the compliance arm of FM. What's the
Factory Mutual.
Factory Mutual?
Insurance.
Factory Mutual, which is a gigantic insurance company that realized that we don't want to pay out claims for fires. You know, how can we eliminate that stuff? So they helped create some of the protocols which here to help eliminate those risks from fires. What they have discovered is that 1/3 of all fires in facilities are caused by electrical fires. 1/3 of all fires. Of those, that 1/3 of those fires, 2/3 of those were preventable if you were doing proper maintenance on your electrical equipment. That is a huge number of fires that are preventable just by performing proper and now required electrical maintenance. So different types of equipment, the likelihood of there being a fire from those. Electrical preventive maintenance required practices. So we're going to go into what some of those are. This gets a little bit dry, but I just want to show you guys all the different types of electrical equipment that you have in the facility and how frequently you should be doing some of them. I'm not going to read through all these and click through some of them, but I just want to show you what those guys look like. So key equipment, we're going to look at the key equipment. The applicable standard is 70B. What does 70B ask of you guys to be doing for that? So we'll show what that is. And then the preventative maintenance scopes. What are the different maintenance scopes that you should be performing on those? So, why effective preventative maintenance programs pay dividends? This is pulled straight from NFPA 70E, Chapter 4, and it is a very exciting read.